So today we will be studying about cells. I hope you already know the definition of cells, right? Actually, in this chapter we will be studying the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cells and their cells modifications, okay? Like the cell wall, the Golgi apparatus, the endoplasmic reticulum, and all this. I think you already have a glimpse of it, right? So in today's we will just have a recapitulate of what you have already studied, but in the next class we will be studying deep in detail about the structure, the modifications of the eukaryotic and the prokaryotic cells. Okay, now let's see the definition of cells. So here we have cells is the basic structural and functional unit of life. Now if we say the structural and the functional unit of life, that means cells helps in building up the structures and also they have their own specific role to play. Okay, and the study of cells is called cytology. Now if you look at this figure, I hope you already studied about the cellular organizations in class 9, right? If I'm not mistaken, in class 9 or in class 10 you already studied about this and you are familiar with this figure also. So here you can see that the muscle cells here, they organize to form a muscle tissue, right? And then they form an organs and then organ system and then they form an organisms. Okay, so this happens not only in human beings but also in plants, animals, microorganisms, right? So cell plays a very important role. They are actually the building blocks of life. Okay, and the cells are broadly divided into prokaryotics and eukaryotics. Okay, so I will not explain this now, and even though I don't explain, I hope you already know that. Now let's move on to the next slide. Here we have a discovery of cells. When we studied about cells, there are some scientists, okay, that comes to our mind. They are the pioneer of discovery of the cells. If they don't discover about the cells, we will not be studying all this, right? The cells was actually discovered by Robert Hooke. Okay, here I show you the photograph of Robert Hooke. In 1665, he observed the bark of a tree or the cork of a tree, and what he found out was this bark is made up of a honeycomb-like structure. Okay, under a microscope he found out this kind of structure in the bark. Okay, and then he called this as a cells. Okay, actually the bark tree or the bark is a dead cells. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Another scientist, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, discovered the living cells. The year 1672, a bacteria protozoans and the RBCs. Okay, he had a more magnifying and an advanced microscope than Robert Hooke, and he was the first to observe a living cells. Now if the question is specific about who discovered the living cells, then you can give the answers as Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Okay, but if a question simply asks who discovered cells, then you can give Robert Hooke as an answer. So he called it as an animalcules. So now we have another scientist who is Robert Brown. So in the year 1831, Robert Brown discovered a nucleus, which is also one of the most important structure of the cells while studying about DNA, right? So he also played a very important role. Okay, so he discovered and observed nucleus in the root cells of orchid. Right? I hope you are clear with this. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide, which is cell theory. So this is also one of the most important and fundamental theory of cells. It was given by Scladen, M.J. Scladen and Swan. Okay? So in the year 1838, Scladen examined a large number of plant tissue. He observed that a plant consists of a large number of tissue, and in the year 1839, Swan found that all animal cells have nucleus but no cell wall. This is also very important distinct features between plant cells and animal cells. So Swan also plays a very important role. So both of them worked together, they combined their data, and then they formulated a cell theory. But another drawback of their theory is that it fails to explain how nuclei are formed. Okay? In the next slides, we have modern cell theory. So again, in the year 1855, Rudolf Virchow explained that cells divide and cells are also formed from pre-existing cells. Okay, that is omnicellula e cellula. This is a German language. Okay, and he called this as theory of cell lineage. And also he modified the hypothesis of Scladen and Swan cell theory and give it a final shape. In this cell theory, we conclude that all organisms are made up of cells, and then all organisms are composed of cells. Now he gives the second theory, which is all cells arise from pre-existing cells. That means if your body needs nourishment, your cells is needing the nourishment. All organisms are composed of cells and products of cells. I think you already understand this. We are made up of cells. All living organisms are made up of cells, and that we are a product of cells. Okay? I hope you are clear with this slide. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Here we have size of cells. Now, if you are counting the number of cells in your body, you will not be able to count it, right? And some cells are not visible to the naked eye since they are too small. Okay, but some are visible to the naked eyes without the help of microscopes. So the smallest cells is mycoplasma, which is a 0.3 micrometer, and bacteria, which is 3 to 5 micrometers. So this is a photograph showing mycoplasma, and this is how it is shown under an electron microscope. Okay, and next we also have the largest single cell, ostrich. This is a unicellular, a single cell, and this is the egg of an ostrich. Okay, see how big it will be. It is 15 centimeter long, 30 centimeter wide, and 1.5 kg. This is approximately. Okay, so the normal egg is up to this size, and this the egg of an ostrich is very big, right? So this is this largest cell. So this is a single cell. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. We also have another cells, which is RBC, human RBC. This RBCs is a red blood cells, right? Do you ever expect that a liquid or a blood will have this kind of structure? No, So they are around 7.0 micrometers, and this is how it is observed inside the microscope. Now let's move on to the next slide. Here we have the nerve cells. Nerve cells are the longest human cells. Okay, they are about 1 meter long. So this is how it is seen inside the microscope, a very magnifying microscope. This is a nerve, and this is the structure of a nerve cell. So how long it is? It is very, very long, about 1 meter long, depending on the organisms. Okay, and they are the longest human cells. Okay, now shape of cells. Cells varies greatly. Okay, now if you see the shape of different kinds of cells, here this one, for example, this has a round and biconcave shape, right? RBCs. And here the white BCs is different again. They have an amoeboidal shape, that is very irregular shape. Okay, and also we have the columnar epithelial cells, that is long and narrow. We also have the cells, and also here we have a branch and long shape, which is a nerve cell. And here we also have a very elongated shape, and here round and oval again. Okay, and we have a spindle shape. So a spindle shape is something like this, which is tapering at the two ends. And also we have a columnar shape, something like this. Okay, they are in column. Okay, so these are some of the shape of the cells. There are lots of shapes, and different cells have their own shapes, and these are a few examples. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Types of cells. Here, on the basis of organization, complexity, and variety, cells can be grouped into two types. We have prokaryotic cells and also eukaryotic cells. Okay, I'll just give you a glimpse on the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Another very distinct features of difference between the two is here in prokaryotic, there is no nuclear bound membrane. Okay, but here nuclear membrane is present. Understood? An example will be like fungi, kingdom fungi, plants, and animals. Okay, and here example will be bacteria. Mostly in prokaryotes they will have a unicellular, and in eukaryotes they will have a multicellular. We will be studying this in detail, but I want you to find out the difference between these two and write down in your notebook. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. We have number of cells. Based on the number of cells present in the body and the organisms, cells can be divided into unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. These are simple, right? So unicellulars are cells which consist of a single cell. Example can be Chlorella, Chlamydomonas, yes, etc. Okay, and here multicellulars are cells which has more than one cells. So we have example plants and animals. Okay, I'm just giving this for your reference. Chlamydomonas, and this is with animal cells. Okay, so in the next class I will be explaining about the structure, the various modifications. So I request you all to just go through the textbook before we begin. I also give you an assignment download the PDF which I sent you through WhatsApp, and don't forget to write down in your notebook. Okay, this much for today. I hope you understand it very well. Have a great day. Bye.